every artist, no matter their medium, they all have goals. I have 3 goals, but for my goals to make sense, I need to share my journey first. So growing up with autism wasn't simple. Academics was easy. I was adding before I could speak. At the age of 3, I was fixing my dad's computer, but I couldn't talk until I was 4. I didn't understand what anger or sadness was. I didn't understand why I had them. When I was upset and I needed to bite something and I bit my brother, it was like, why'd you bite him? I don't know. Communicating was hard for me. And I did not have a lot of friends growing up, because children can be mean. But I had books. I started reading a lot, and from there I started getting my own ideas. So I didn't have support outside my immediate family, but I did have the books, and they were comfortable for me. With all the books that I read, I developed that love of reading and writing. While reading so much, I started getting more and more ideas because of the books. Therapy didn't seem to be working for me, because one of the first stories I finished was a young girl on the beach and her family got murdered by creatures. But that's actually the prologue for my first book. So, and I was 8 when I wrote that. All right. Eventually, when I was in middle school, I discovered an author called Darren Shan. His Cirque du Freak series inspired me to write my own book series outside of Little Stories. After years of practicing, growing, and adapting, that beach scene is now there. There's 4 books in that series, and I got a standalone as well. But when I was writing the second book, I didn't publish the first book yet, because I was still too young. I was writing the second book, and my computer crashed. I cried. But if you read anything from when you're writing as a teenager, my computer crashing was a blessing in disguise, because when I rewrote it, it was so much better. In high school and college, I kept writing, but I also started to draw. I started with cartoon characters I liked and clip art images from Google. Eventually, I did my own fan art, and I started drawing my own characters. Eventually, my speed increased. I have some very creative ideas that make people smile. So even if nobody buys anything from my stand, it always brings a smile to my face when people are like, oh, look at that. So I do get enjoyment out of that, just making people smile. So my creative writing and my hand drawing were coming along, but because of everything I faced growing up, I still had a lot of trauma from bullying and bad friends being taken advantage of, and I didn't know how to process it. With autism, it is very difficult to process emotions, at least it was for me. So, outside of stories, I also started to write poetry. A lot of my poems were based off of cartoon characters that I resonated with, but I have other poems as well. In graduate school, I came up with an idea for an indie animated series, A Twitch in the System. It's going outside of books, doing animation, and I have a few graphic novel ideas in mind as well. So in grad school, I reached out to my cohort, and 5 of them helped me start writing my show. 2 of them helped me write and develop the series from start to finish. Lisa Wisniewski, who voices Twitch, and she's absolutely terrific and talented, and my friend Krista Rowland. She's very smart, creative, and she was excellent at preventing Lisa and I from tangenting most of the time. Because as artists and writers, if we start talking, you know we're going to be talking a little too much, right? All right. Now I have a lot more scripts and some movie scripts in the work, as well as the graphic novels. So my journey took me here and my goals. Something all of my stories have in common is something my younger self craved: positive relationships. Most of the trauma I overcame came through writing and drawing and poetry caused by bullying and abuse I suffered from friends that I loved. I now have a small, amazing friend group and people who genuinely care, so I'm very thankful for that. But my younger self wanted to show that positive relationships are possible. If you've been to my booth, all the ships probably make sense now, right? All right. I don't regret my kindness, and I learned that hurt people hurt others. I encountered a lot of hurt people who hurt me, which leads me to something else I want my stories to express: mental health awareness. Everyone deals with it. Everyone has their mental health fail from time to time. Everybody has shed several tears or more, and they don't show it. I want to show that yes, it sucks, and you didn't deserve what happened to you. Neither did I. But you can be a phoenix and rise from those ashes. You can overcome it. You are not alone, and you never will be. The last thing I want my stories and art to express is probably the most important to me. Raise your hand if you've ever been told that you have a disability or a label thrown on you. Yeah, a few people in the room. Nice one. I was diagnosed with autism when I was 5, but I personally wasn't told by my family until I was 14. My father made it a mission to not tell the schools because I started kindergarten in 2000, and at that time, everybody with autism was thrown into a cluster classroom. But I was reading and adding at the age of 4 before I could even speak. So my dad, and writing as well. So my dad was like, no, that's not happening. So there is so much negative stigma with autism back then and still today and for a while, I was ashamed to try to keep quiet about it. But here I am today, proudly admitting who I am and everything I can do. How many neurotypicals can admit to having almost 6 books published and an animated series in the making? And a master's degree at the age of 28. I want to prove that no human being is defined by a disability. The negative stigma you hear is not who you are. If you have a label, please believe that you are just as capable as everyone else. You could do amazing things with your life, and you are more inspirational than you realize.
That's awesome.
Thank you, everybody. And my business over there, if you'd like to take a look at it. Thank you.
Awesome, Roberto.